Folks, some homeowners have a false sense of wealth. I'll get into that and then the latest home prices and insights for the city of Toronto for week ending October 30th, 2024. I was reading an article. Well, let me rephrase that. I read a headline. I didn't read the article. I read a headline and it says that homeowners are wealthier than renters. The reason I didn't read the article was because I've seen many of these articles and they usually go along the lines of the same process. During the article, you'll read that if a homeowner 20 years ago if the person purchased the home 20 years ago, they used, for example, $50,000 as a down payment. Over time, over 20 years, the home has appreciated so much. Here's the value now. And if they sold, subtract the $50,000 that they initially put in, this is how much money they would have. If somebody rented through all that time and maybe put their money into something that offered a moderate type of appreciation, term deposit, for example, all this time, and you subtract whatever they spent in rent, and that's how much money they would have, the homeowner comes out on top by a lot. I've read these articles many times. I don't read them anymore just because they talk about situations that are just not real. And I say that because this is all done on a spreadsheet in a math lab somewhere under the most ideal, perfect situations. And I shouldn't be surprised, neither should you, because everything seems this way, right? I buy a new phone. You could read how long the battery is going to last. It's got, 48 hours of battery life on a single charge. Great. I've never experienced that though, because in reality, I got apps running, I got people phoning, I'm on the call. I never have the battery life that they talk about, or the mileage on your car. You buy a new car and it says you get so much miles to so many liters to the fill up. Okay, what's that though? Downhill all the way, all the time with the wind behind you. Like, you just never experience what they market, because those are done in isolated labs, perfect situations. Well, talking about real estate numbers like this is also, it's the same idea. Let me give you what really happens out there. And I'd really appreciate your comments on this topic, because I know many of you have experience in exactly what I'm speaking about now. You buy a home and so many years goes by and you make your mortgage payment, and there are many homeowners that bought years ago that did only that, just made their mortgage payments, appreciation kicked in, and they're in great financial situation today because of that. But more of a reality is, as appreciation went up and as their kids started to grow, that home wasn't big enough anymore. So they took whatever appreciation was there in that home and they bought a bigger home. So now, instead of their debt being this big on their mortgage because they were working on paying it down, their mortgage jumps back up. And every so many years, could be every 5 years, 10 years, they've moved to a bigger home and they have a huge debt now. That's more of reality. Or maybe they only moved once in that time. Yeah, they had a bigger mortgage, but they took money out of their home. They used it as an ATM to buy a fancier car. When they first bought their home, they had one car. Now they got two. Then their son or daughter needed a car. Now they got three. And it's all money from the house. And then their kids got married. And, a $10,000 wedding wasn't enough. They spent $75,000, $100,000 on a wedding. Where did that money come from? Because these people have regular jobs. They're not earning $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year. When they bought 20 years ago, you could buy a home with a regular type job. Not today. You need to be a top earner to come up with the equity, the down payment, let's say, to buy a home. That's more of reality today. And you know, there's a lot of these homeowners out there that just because they own their home, they really don't have a lot of wealth because of what they did with that appreciation. They really thought they were so smart in their investment in that home. It wasn't them, it was appreciation. And then they took that to buy another home and they joined the pre-construction game. This is a reality. They joined the pre-construction game and today are suffering because of that. There's all sorts, yes, there's lots that have done extremely well, but others that haven't. So when I read these articles, I'm wondering, well, who are you comparing it to? Are you taking a real life situation that when their home doubles and triples in value, they just wait to retire and do nothing, then pull out all the money in a sale and they sell their home and then they've got all this cash? Or is more of a reality, as appreciation goes up, they've actually used that money to do other things, sometimes not always things that were very smart, and they don't necessarily have the wealth they have today. So the article, getting back to it, is comparing home ownership to renters, saying homeowners are wealthier. Look, if the person's renting because they cannot afford to buy a house, they don't have the means to come up with a down payment, well, we don't need to do a study on that. It's natural. The person that is earning enough to save a down payment, put it on a home, that person's wealthier than somebody who is just barely getting by. But that's not comparing apples to apples. There are renters that can afford to buy a home. They just choose not to. They look at, do I take my down payment and put it in a home, or do I use my down payment and invest it elsewhere where I feel I could earn more money? I know renters like this. They are far wealthier than many of the homeowners I know. And that's their choice. They're choosing to rent because of what they're doing with their money. They could buy a home anytime. They don't want to be tied up in the mortgage. If they invest in other areas, they could liquidate that fast, quick, simple with a click of a button. Home ownership to them, tons of expenses, tons of other things involved they don't want to get into. It's a choice they make. I'd like to see articles that takes those realities into account and then see and compare. And that's the reality of things. Just because you own a home doesn't mean you're wealthier than the person it's renting. Compare the person that's in the same tax bracket as you or the same income level as you, and then see who has more money. Because I'm not telling you you should do one versus the other. I'm just telling you these studies done in a math lab somewhere under conditions that nobody really experiences don't relate to the real world. And I know a lot of people get caught up by these articles, and I know a lot of people that are homeowners automatically think that they're better off. You may be. It all depends on how you conduct your financial life. You may be better off, you may not. Just like that renter may be wealthier than you, maybe not. It all depends on how you conduct your financial life. And I'm not trying to give you financial advice. I'm telling you what I see. I've helped many homeowners that have owned their home for years and years and years sell their home, and there's liens that need to be paid off, and there's lines of credit that needs to pay off. After so many years, and their home has doubled and tripled in value, they have very little to show for it because of all these other things that they did. Not necessarily wealth accumulating things or activities. They just took the money and did silly things with it, to be honest. And I know renters, and I've helped renters that have not bought a home, and you think, they can't afford it. No, that's not true. They have a ton of money. They just choose to invest it elsewhere. If you think this video can help somebody you know, please pass it along. If you get value from what we're talking about, subscribe. If you want to speak with me about your real estate situation, selling, buying, it's really simple. There's a link to my calendar here, another one below this video in the description. click on that, book a time that's convenient for you, and we'll talk about whatever's on your mind. Now, let's get into the numbers. Folks, we have 3 multifamily homes for sale. These homes were built right from the beginning to accommodate other families. It's great for you and your extended family, or rent out part of the home to help pay for the mortgage, whatever works for you. At the end of this video, there will be links on the screen to these properties. Now, let's get started. We're looking at the City of Toronto only. We're going to be focused on the freehold market, detached semis and towns. But on this summary page, I do have condos just to give an idea of overall what's going on in the City of Toronto. Detached prices over the last couple of weeks have gone up. Semis and towns and condos over the course of just 1 week, those prices came down. We can't judge everything by what's happening in 1 week. I'm just showing you though what's going on. So we're going to be looking at detached properties first. For week ending October 30th, 152 detached properties were sold. 39 of those were at $2 million or more. Now sales seem to be heading down. Average price, if I was to look, average price is $1,636,000. Overall, for the fall period, I would say that average prices are trending up for detached properties in the City of Toronto. Earlier this year, this is the beginning of the year here, average prices were trending up all the way to say mid-May. And overall, they've been coming down since there, but they came down to the end of August and now look like they're going up again. That's what the chart is showing me now. Compared to last year, 1,636 is 6% higher than where we were year over year. The median price is $1,305,000, and that's 3% higher year over year. The dotted line, that's a 4-week moving average. Average price does seem like it's trending. Excuse me, folks. It's my first day with my new lips here. Average price does seem like it's trending up. Median price, however, pretty flat actually. Not a lot of movement there. 152 we said were sold. 36% of those sold at list price or more. Listings, although from this week versus the previous week, listings are up a little bit. Overall, listings of detached properties has been trending down since the first week of September, where we listed quite a bit, 636. We're now at 372 listed for week ending October 30th. Active listings since September 11th, not a lot of change. Yeah, they're up and down each week, but not a lot of change in how many detached are actually available for sale. In months of inventory, sitting at 3.3. It is up from the previous week, but not a lot of change since mid-September. It's down, it's up, it's pretty, hovering around that border of seller's market, balanced market, bordering of 3 months. Here's the city broken down into 9 different sections. And for the City of Toronto, we're saying 3.3 months of inventory, but there's some areas outperforming the whole city. Scarborough had 44 sales. Months of inventory is 2.3. 34% of those properties sold at list price or more. East York, Riverdale, 18 sales. It's the same as last week as far as months of inventory, sitting at 2.3 months of inventory. Weston Yorkdale, 2.4 months of inventory. You've got York Mills, Rosedale. The average price is over $4.2 million for last week. They had 27 sales. $4.2 million is the average price. A third are selling at list price or more. 3.9 is the months of inventory. Here's semi-detached properties. Sales seem to be trending up overall. 62 semi-detached properties were sold. 16 of those were at $1.5 million or more. Average price is $1,308,000. It's kind of tricky to figure out which way average price is going, however. 1,308 is little bit less than 1% higher than where we were this time a year ago. When we average it out, there's 0% change. I think it was like 0.3 or 0.4%. Median price is 1% higher year over year. So when we look at the dotted line, from the beginning of the fall, week ending September 4th, average prices were going up. Now they kind of, when you average out and use a 4-week moving average to look at it, they kind of seem overall a bit flat. Months of inventory down, now sitting at 1.7. 61% of the semis that sold at list price or more. So lots of competition in the semi-detached market. Townhouses, 15 townhouses were sold. One of those was at $1.5 million or more. Average price is $1,152,000. 1,152 is 6% lower versus a year ago. The median price is 8% lower. Months of inventory sitting at 3.2 months of inventory. So here's a summary. Months of inventory. We say between 3 months to 5 months is a balanced market. And what we're finding, especially when we're focused more on detached properties, is it's kind of hovering between the seller's market, the top end of a seller's, bottom end of a balanced market. Many areas, you're going to experience one or the other. Price point will have something to do with it. Certain price points are more competitive than others. Home types, how the home shows, there's so many factors. I just don't want you, if you're active in the market, if you're selling or buying, to think it's only one way. It really depends on the situation, but predominantly we're looking at the bottom end of a balanced market as far as the detached market goes. Now, those properties I talked about at the beginning, the multifamily homes, the links should be on my screen.